Hello, everybody. Welcome to this World Printers Forum webinar. Today, we are very happy to welcome Tim Estermann, who is the Chief Internet Security Officer of Funke Mediengruppe. I want to share my screen and show you a little bit of slides. Yes, our speaker today is Tim Estermann. Let's see.
Yes.
Can you see me now? Hello, Tim.
Hello. Yeah.
Good to see you.
It worked.
Welcome. Yes, the topic of today is the cyber attack of Funke Mediengruppe that took place just before Christmas in 2020. Tim will go into that in more detail in a little bit. Before that, I want to tell you a few housekeeping things. We will start by saying something about Tim. Tim Estermann turns 40 in 2023 and has been part of the Funke Media Group for the last 10 years. He's an economic engineer by trade, and he started his career as a freelance journalist and consultant supporting SMBs. In 2012, he joined Funke in the layout department of the daily newspapers as a freelance layouter and a writer. He quickly got hired as a full-time technical editor for the technical department of the newspaper and was responsible for typography and layout design for all newspapers of the group after that. In 2021, shortly after the biggest cyber attacks in the company's history, Tim became Funke's CISO. He will explain this title, CISO, where he is responsible for the security strategy of the media group. This all sounds very exciting. I just want to tell you a little bit about the next webinar we have next month. We're going to talk about how we promote paper, and we get two organizations who are solely focused on that, the two sites and print power. This is on February 16th, same time. So you know that we will have a monthly webinar here after the third week of the month from 3 to 4 CET. So if you can mark that in your calendars. I will also tell you all about the World Printer Summit will take place this fall in October 9th and 10th in Frankfurt of Germany. Keep you posted about that. And of course, you should all be subscribers to our newsletters. It's in the chat box. You can get the link there to subscribe to the newsletters if you haven't so far, but please do. Also, we want to emphasize that there's a Q&A button in the Zoom chat where you can post your questions. Please do, so we can do like a Q&A session afterwards. And we should be able to have a great time here today. So I'll give you the word to you, Tim. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Ingi. It's a pleasure to be here. I've held this talk a lot in the last 2 years. I haven't held it in English for a while, so you might excuse me if I'm browsing for words. It should work out, but if I'm stuck for a second, don't be surprised. I'm Tim. Ingi said I'm CISO, I'm Chief Information Security Officer, which is basically I'm responsible for our information security strategy for our whole media group, so around 6,000 people. We changed that position after the cyber attack a little bit because before that, the CISO was also Chief Compliance Officer, so we separated that. And I'm really happy to be here. I have had the chance to make my passion my job. Before I became CISO, I was head of strategic technology innovation, so did a little bit, a lot of innovation stuff, but cybersecurity was always my hobby and something I did every day, so it's perfect for me. But today I'm here to talk a little bit about what happened in the nightmare before Christmas, and the end of 2020. I hope you can see everything. If not, give your Ingi a heads up so that we can fix that. The storyline is a little bit that I'm telling you about the timeline. So what happened at what time, and how did the attackers gain ground at Funke? What did we learn from that? Where are we now? And yeah, a little bit about communication, awareness, stuff like that. So yeah, let's just jump in. End of 2020, 22nd of December. But let's start with a little overview about Funke, and just a quick run. If you don't know who Funke Mediengruppe is, basically we have a lot of we are everywhere in Germany, so we have more than 1,500 journalists, 4,500 media makers all over Germany. We have 6 bigger locations, you can see here, but we have around about 140 locations. So we are quite big, or we are a little bit all over Germany. Our products are quite diverse. So we have a big chunk of daily newspapers. You can see a lot of stuff in North Rhine-Westphalia, like the WATS, also Berlin, Northern Germany, Southern Germany. So it's quite diverse. We have a lot of advertising papers, local radios. We have digital publications. We also have only digital publications, digital TV stations. We have a lot of magazines, which mostly are based in Hamburg and Munich. But with just a quick overview, because we are here for the attack. If you walk through hell, keep walking. That was the only option we had. If we didn't do that, we would have never been able to continue. One thing is that, yeah, we would like to show you how it happened. This is how we got, well, this is what we saw when we came to the office, or the editors that are employed in the early shift, so around about 5 o'clock in the morning. That's what they saw. That's not Photoshopped, that's a real image from our production desk. So that's our news desk in Essen here. So the first person to come here saw only blue screens. The blue screens, as you can see on the right side, just had the info that your network was hacked, and there was a little bit more info, so an email address and a URL that could be not be clicked, but that could be entered somewhere else. So that's basically the ransomware message. That's the final stage of the attack. That's when everything was encrypted, every Windows machine was encrypted, and yeah, this was the offer to, let's say, buy decryption keys, which I have to tease later, part of today's talk, which we didn't pay because we had good backups. But yeah, that's how it looks if your network is down. If you opened that link or entered that into a different machine, you would be greeted by a professional web page. So it was a landing page in the darknet. For everyone not that proficient, you need a special browser. It was a .onion link, so that you need to connect to the Onion network or to the Tor network to open that page. So there wasn't a huge danger that every person that would see that would open that. But as we noticed, or as our CERT noticed, there's a possibility that someone already entered that info before we were able to, partly because one person posted a screenshot of this ransomware message in the morning at about 7. So there's a huge chance that someone from outside activated that, because there was a countdown timer. As you can see here, it was set for 21 days, which gives enough room for talks. But yeah, we right now we think that there was someone already checking that out. The interesting thing here is that the attackers are do not look like me, so they're not sitting with a hoodie in some cellar. We are talking about professional companies with chat agents, call centers. So that's a little bit different from what you may expect. But now we are taking a look at the chronology of the attack, because as you might imagine, the attack did not start on the 22nd of December. It actually started 4 days before that date. So what I'm showing you now is only from the in phase, gaining first track to the out phase, so where the attackers basically did their job and left us hanging. But we will take a look at the chronology. So there was a phishing mail synchronized from Outlook to the end device of one regular user on December 18th in the morning. As you can see, the backdoor got downloaded within the first minute. We will show you how that mail looked on the next slide. It was basically a prepared old Excel file, but I will show you that. But that downloaded that backdoor was on the first
Sorry,
minute.
Tim.
Yes.
Can I interrupt? We're getting feedback from our viewers that the slides are a bit blurry. Is that, do you know what that might be? So they're having problems reading.
We can change the way we do that. Maybe you can activate screen sharing for me. Then I will just share that window separately, if possible. That may be because I'm using a virtual camera.
Okay.
And Zoom may downgrade the quality if the bandwidth isn't that.
Okay, and
nice.
So you should be able to share your screen.
Hopefully,
yes,
you
yes.
should be able to see the same as before, just a little bit more crisp. Hopefully.
Now it's better. So thank you so much.
Perfect.
Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, so no, it's no problem. That's virtual cameras. They tend to downgrade the resolution a bit. Okay. So but if that works. But either way, there's nothing on my slides that I won't tell you. They are just here to illustrate what I'm saying. Okay, so next minute backdoor is active. Then the attackers were able to infiltrate the first AD controller. AD stands for Active Directory, so basically the system that holds your credentials where you used to log on to your Mac or to your Windows device. I have to explain that a little bit, why that was possible. They used a zero logon exploit for that, and they were only able to do that because there was in the past an admin logged on to that device, to this end device. That won't be possible today, so that's one of the things we changed, but they logged on to that system, and there was something like a golden ticket, like a hashed password for that account on the device, and the attackers were able to extract that hash password and use it to log on to that AD controller. So we have two things that happened. We have a person that opened email and activated macros that shouldn't be, and there was an admin logged in. So it's a chain of things that shouldn't have happened, but they did. but that was the first breach. So from that AD controller, after that took over the control, that looked around the network. As you can see, it took roughly a little bit more than a day to work on that. They deployed a PowerShell Cobalt Strike beacon. A Cobalt Strike is just a professional product that can be used, which can also be used for good stuff, but it's used a lot for taking over devices. One thing is that at that point, the access got sold. There's not always one group doing all the stuff. This group only gave access and sold that access via an initial access broker, which is basically the next company, a real company in that chain, and they sold the access to the next attacker group. So that's what happened in these 24 hours. But that's kind of quick. That PowerShell Cobalt Strike beacon gave them the possibility to gain permanent access and to issue commands from that Active Directory server. So they waited 3 days until they had a good time or found a good spot and started the attack in the night. Basically, the attack was just a central server sending out a script that encrypted the whole drives, which is basically one line of code. You said telling the computer, use this file, change the name to or add something to that, and use this password for encryption. That's what that's the device that was used to trick the user. So basically, it was an email with a zip attachment, which we would filter out today normally. The important thing is that the text was error-free. That's something we also see today. The quality of phishing and spam mails gets better and better. Here, it wasn't possible for the user to see it at a glance. But there's also one thing to note. We use DocuSign for digitally signing documents. So that was really good for the attacker that they used something that the user was expecting. That's the important thing. I'm getting DocuSign documents like every 2 weeks. So I could be expecting a DocuSign document every moment. But the next thing is there was an Excel document inside that zip that looked kind of like what we see here. One important thing, it's an old Excel format. So XLS, newer, and I'm talking newer than like 10 years, Excel files have another extension, which is XLSX. X at the end stands for XML, so it's an XML based file format. And if you create an Excel file today, an XLSX, that won't be able to contain macros. Microsoft acted here, changed stuff. So today, if you want to have an Excel file with the macro, it will be an XLSM for macro. But the old format still enabled macros if you enabled them. So you see there's that yellow bar. That was the call to action for the person to activate it. That macro was used to download the backdoor. Okay, now we jump back to the early morning of December 22nd. That's where we see the blue screens. Early morning, right about 5:30, first people arrive here, and we see, or they see that they can connect, that the networks won't work. So we have, we don't, the first reports were not about encrypted devices. They were of massive failures of infrastructure. So networks not working, telephones not working, stuff like that. So after a short while, we noticed that something was really wrong. And then the classic race began. Say classic because it's kind of a meme that you start running and rip out every cable in the company, but that's basically what happened. So every network was shut down, virtual machines were shut down. People went physically to offices and just ripped out cables, so there was a chance that we could stop it. And we started printing out sheets to place at the entry of the building, so people wouldn't join the network. Start thinking. It was clear really shortly that that was something we couldn't handle alone. So we got in contact with a CERT, which is basically computer emergency response team. I will talk about that a little bit later. So that the team that could support us, that were specialists for forensics, for rebuilding systems. We contacted police, the LKA, which is basically police organization on state level. So the North Rhine-Westphalia LKA joins and the police. We have some information on that later on because they might have different goals than a company, which is high interest in just getting the production running again and not finding the attackers. But yeah, we'll come to that later. In the first 3 hours, we organized crisis meetings for the board. We started our contingency plans for the production. The good thing is we had some network outages in the past, so we had our plans at hand. So the production wasn't the biggest problem, but communication, because without mail, without our central systems that were shut off, it was kind of hard to get all that info out, but come to that later. Yeah, here we have one of the effects from what I said in the beginning. The MDR, which is a local TV station in Thuringia, reported on our case within the first 5 hours, so like 10 o'clock in the morning. That was only able because a person posted that photo to Facebook. So that's one of the tips for you and for everyone I talk to: avoid information leaks by any chance. Or if you see no chance to avoid them, you have to be really good at communicating, and you have to start communicating really, really quick. We saw that in the past year there were several media companies hit with ransomware, and there's one example I saw from southern Germany where the company just started doing interviews. CEO and head of editorial just did interviews, and they started with that like 3 hours ago, 3 hours after the attack was published, or info on that attack was published. So there are different ways to tackle that, but the first thing would be avoid that info gets out there uncontrolled. Oh, here we see there's one German word left in my presentation. Sorry for that. The CERT came to our to Essen in the evening of the 22nd. They had to come from another event. The thing is, our CERT comes from the Netherlands, so they had to organize the transportation a little bit. But when they arrived, we were quite happy because they were competent. They and started helping us out. Yeah, what is a CERT? Just a quick info, because I'm not sure. Normally I'm talking in front of technical leads or information security specialists. So I'm trying to give you a quick overview. A CERT, Computer Emergency Response Team, is basically a team that will be able to get the business back running as fast as possible, do forensics, so determine root cause and work together with the police, and yeah, keep the customer suppliers on board, keep the police in check. That's one important thing, because they have a different goal, and prevent attacks from happening again. And everything that you can see was done by the CERT, even the last thing. So we were able to prevent a second attack 2 days after. So that's something we are really happy about. For the CERT, I can tell you that we used Northwave, which is a company from the Netherlands. They yeah, we are quite happy with them. That's what that image is from. But yeah, that was just the basic overview what a CERT is. But they did so much more to help us. So they start with the really basic stuff like inventory and securing what was still there, establishing communication channels that were just gone, like email servers were not available anymore. We shut down chat servers to prevent infections. So they helped us to create everything else. Yes, we see WhatsApp, that's something we wouldn't use otherwise, but in this case, the reality came crashing down on us. And if you only have 2 hours to get contact, you're not able to establish another messaging service nobody uses. So I've had talks where people told me that they only use Threema, and I full-heartedly support that. But in that situations, we had to use the communication channels that were available, and we had no backup. So that one takeaway could be prepare your company to have a backup communication system. Just think about what you would do if your mail, your chat, and your hardwired phones wouldn't work anymore. So it would be the same as you took your company phone and just crushed it. That's the info you have. You have a private phone, you maybe have your private SIM card, but nothing more. That's why we had to be a little bit pragmatic and open. We create a temporary website, and yeah, concepted the external communication, because yeah, the reality was faster than we were. So our corporate communication unit was really helping here. Sorry. And yeah, so basically coordinated everything that was necessary to get back on track. They support us in some central decisions. You see decision on new central domain. Before that, we had like a forest of domains, and they advised us to consolidate that. With Microsoft told us that that was no good idea, that it was a too big project for that small time frame. They advised to use 3 domains, but we did that. We used 1, and that was the best decision we made, because now everyone is in one system, and the communication benefited from that massively. So we went to an M365. So everyone's the same, uses the same Teams instance, for example, for chat, and the same Exchange servers or Outlook programs. So that's something, yeah, the biggest, well, the most interesting thing out of my perspective, because that was a project that was planned for more than a year, or was planned for a year, and was planned to be spent over 1.5 years, and that was done in 4 weeks. And we have they helped us setting up. We called it car wash, and didn't want to translate it because we even had signs saying car wash. That's why we used that, because it was basically exactly like a car wash. So you take your device, dirty, put it in there, it goes through a process and you get it back in a new domain and fully cleaned. I have to say fully cleaned in that way means fully reset, re-imaged, and everything you had on there would be gone, which is no problem because we always had the policy to save stuff on network shares and not on local devices. So even before that, if there was a defective device, we wouldn't repair it, we would just exchange it. Yeah, the reconstruction, I start talking about car washes. So we have it, we got we had 3 sites. Essen, which is here, Western Germany. We had Erfurt, Braunschweig, and Hagen. Sorry, 4, I can't count. Where we would do the physical setup of the new devices. So from every other site, they would be fed to the next possible geographic location. So basically from Hamburg or Ismaning, which are in the extremes north and south in Germany, they were all brought to central positions to be re-imaged. We had to organize 2,000 new devices. That was necessary because we also upgraded our operating systems. We needed devices with trusted platform modules, so TPM chips, they're called. We didn't have them, or we didn't have enough of them, so we had to organize new devices. I have to say, you have to remember, end of 2020, so Corona was at its peak, and it was 2 days before Christmas. So there was a problem getting devices in the year 2020 because everyone needed notebooks, but getting 2,000 devices on Christmas, that was one of the biggest challenges. And even one of our CEOs went there with a truck to one of the warehouses of Medion, and you will see pictures later that I have some impressions from the whole process. And yeah, it was basically, they went there by night to a logistics company and just piled pallets of notebooks into a truck to get us running again. What you will see here are images you will see later on. That's basically our washing street. That's one of our biggest conference rooms, which normally fits about 200-300 people. And it was full of devices. So what you're seeing there is it's one device, one piece of paper telling who it belongs to and what the state of the device is, and the power adapter. So on that table, or these tables, I think I counted that you see at least 300 devices, and that room looked like that for weeks. And because we only had the quarantine network at that time, and didn't use network, it was all re-imaged via USB sticks, classic USB sticks. So every morning, the newest image was put on the sticks, and yeah, start installing. Fun thing, just an anecdote. My job during that phase was setting up macOS devices. So we didn't have that many at the time. So I was not in that room. So I had a separate room where I just, yeah, did the stuff to Macs that you will see within the next slides. Because here you see the car wash. But what we did in the car wash, you will see a slide for end devices soon. Basically, every server was restored from backup. So that is one of the central takeaways. We were only able to do all that because we had backups that were up to date, that were offline and available at the time. So we did not have to repair or check anything. We just restored everything from backup and did a malware check after that, and we installed Defender ATP. That's the Microsoft antivirus. Before that, we used McAfee, which was not able to detect the attack, which is basically because McAfee at that time used a signature-based scanner. So if there was a virus that was detected somewhere else in the world, the signatures would be transferred to a central server. And so everyone in the world knew that that was malware. We changed that. Defender ATP checks the behavior of programs. If something is off the limits, it will alarm. So that's a better detection rate and a better detection speed. After that, we integrated the devices or the servers with the monitoring, health check, and put them in a new secure network. You can imagine doing that for 1,100 devices takes some time. But because we prioritized our business processes, we were able to prioritize the reconstruction there also. Same goes for end devices. There's one big difference. I already talked a little bit about the process of the Windows notebooks. They were completely re-imaged. So there no way to save any data. They were deleted, re-imaged. Additional apps were installed. They were joined to the new domain. And after the login, they were transferred to the new secure network. The small percentage, I would say 1 to 3% of our media group of Apple devices were not wiped. There we only changed the antivirus solution from McAfee to ATP and changed the domain. Here you can see one important thing, which is hand over and login user MFA. That's also one of the biggest takeaways. We didn't have MFA, so multi-factor authentication. That's when you have to enter, for example, a 6-digit one-time password after entering your email and password. That's something that's unique today because password breaches are something that happens so often. And a second factor is at least a little bit safer. I won't say that a second factor will save your systems from every attack ever, but it's at least another thing attackers have to jump over. So I talked a little bit about what the challenges during the process were. I talked about the police that may have a different target than a company that needs to produce their papers. But one thing that worked quite well, because we had production problems before, we were able to produce our product with via manual emergency production. That worked quite well, but was not we were not able to produce the same volume as with our industrial production systems. As I said, we had some kind of problems establishing internal communication, but that worked out within the first days. But the next thing is external communication. So I'm quite happy we have internal and external communication unit, and that didn't didn't have to be done by the IT. So that's also a takeaway to provide the people that are working to get going again with professionals that communicate. So if you don't have a communication unit in your company, it could be a good thing to get an external communication company to do that, because it's hard for the IT to do everything at once. And they can only that way they can focus on what's really important and prioritize the rebuild. One thing that may be a special German thing, I'd also talked to Ingi about that before we had this talk. English as a working language is nothing that you can expect. It worked out, but especially in Germany, English proficiency isn't that extremely high. If you're taking a look at Netherlands, where every movie is in English, that's something different, but it's over here that is something you have to think about, depending on where you are in the printing process. There may be no need for English in everyday life. Yeah, I think the rest I talked about. We had logistics challenges that worked out quite well, because everyone went hands-on, even if that's a buzzword, but everyone that got contact just did what they were able to do. And yeah, nothing we can forget, Corona was still at its peak. One thing that's why I focused a little bit on communication is that even also internal communication is quite important, because for the end user, just there's nothing working, and like 2 months later, they were able to work like nothing happened before. That's why we created the Funke Hackazine. This takes a look at some of the things like interviews with our CIO, CEOs, with the experts from our CERT. They described how we did the rebuild. So basically everything I'm telling right now is in that hackazine. So I could also just read out loud that hackazine. But what I would like to show you are some impressions from that process. As you can see, this product was also printed. So that's why I'm telling you, because we're in the printers forum. That's something that's, for me, that's quite important, because that product was something physical people could take a look at, and that reminds us of what we did. What you can see in these images is the process of getting these devices into our house. So in the first image, where my finger is pointing, I'm not sure if it's right or left right now, you actually see one of our CEOs standing there within the boxes and boxes of media and devices. On the far, let's say far left side above the Funke logo, you can see how we unloaded the devices here in Essen. And yeah, one of the more interesting things is there is that small image with, I hope you can see it, with a car. That's the Waschstraße, the car wash, and that's why I'm using that word, because we used that consequently. Yeah, just some images. That's on the top left, you can see one of my colleagues unloading the devices. So that's something we didn't do before. Before we just had regular processes, ordering stuff, getting pallets delivered here. So that's an image I really like. And there's even, yeah, the emergency production process. So that's nothing where you can see that actually it was not normal production, but you can see that everyone was here. Everyone supported the whole company. So I'm quite happy to work together with these people. Yeah, we were able to print. So even if the processes didn't work like before, we were able to print our dailies and the magazines, even if it meant to ship or to bring USB devices to our printing houses. But this should just show you that how important communication is, even if it's telling people that they need to have to wait for 3 weeks. That's for the receiving end. That's extremely important to know how to handle the situation. I think I wrap it up because I think I'm using a little bit too much time. But the actions and the lesson learned, I will just go over. I think the next takeaway is awareness and training is the best thing you can do, and is useful and necessary, because if every person in our house was able to identify phishing emails, that would never have happened. If everyone would have known that logging on as admins on local devices wasn't good, that wouldn't have happened. So awareness is the key takeaway. That's one of the things I'm doing. That's why you're seeing this frame I'm using, because we created a whole communication system. So we had our in-house agency create logos and videos. We even did merchandise. I won't put that on the big screen because it's not that important. This is just a post-it which has the question. No, it's not a question. It's to say lock your screen, and it has the Windows L combination which you can use to lock your screen. So that's used if someone doesn't lock their screen. We have these everywhere, so they can be reminded. We have a cryptonizer. We give everyone, which is a small card where you can encrypt passwords with. I won't go into detail. I just want to say it's really important to have stuff present everywhere, so people always get reminded to be safe. One of the central points we learned and we tried to change is that the arms race cyber criminals against companies is not symmetric. The attackers share info, they share info about new software, about new threats, and they work together. As I said, we have initial access brokers, we have the people that phish, we have the people that do the extortion. So they are really professional, and at that time there was no collective defense, no open communication. That's something we want to change. Something I've been working on. So, for example, since the start of the Ukraine war, we have a weekly meeting with CISOs and information security specialists and even CIOs of big German news corps. So if you're interested in joining, just contact me on LinkedIn, and we'll start talking. We do some events like 3 to 4 times a year now, where we just talk about threat intel, about what happens. So if you would like to join us or talk about that further on, feel free to contact me, because I think that's one of the most important things. Yeah. We are on the finish line. It's just an overview. We have now one domain, we have one mail system. We use Microsoft 365, we use multi-factor authentication. So stuff that should be standard, but we haven't used in the past. We cleaned everything up. We implement Defender ATP and Sentinel, and we replaced the old operating systems on clients and servers. So yeah, that's what we did. But that's just the base for everything that will come in the future. And one saying that we always used in the process was never waste a crisis, because we have so much takeaways and we changed our culture, and we are in a stronger position. But one thing I want to say to finish is, it would not be professional to say that something like that could never happen again. I always say it's not a question if something happens, it's just a question when and how we are prepared for that. Ingi, I will stop my screen sharing.
Thank you, Tim. This was truly very, very informative. I have a full paper here with questions from myself, and we have at least 5 questions from the panel. So I think we just start with the questions from the panel, so you can answer them. Then I'll try to go through mine, and maybe we can run over a little bit because it's 8 to 3. We'll see, but at least.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, it was all interesting. So no time wasted there, I would say. Okay, the first question here is: did you have forced employees to use MFA?
Did we have to force them?
Yes, to use the MFAs.
There was no alternative. We forced MFA when creating the new account, so they had the choice between MFA and no MFA. No, sorry, between MFA and not working for Funke anymore, because they were technically enabled. But one thing that was important is, if you use MFA, especially in Germany, you have to provide people with the means to use MFA. So, for example, we have 6,000 people around. Half of them have company smartphones. So we had to open the way for multi-factor authentication via call. So you log in and you get a call from Microsoft, because we don't provide everyone with the device. So they need to be able to get a call on their office phone. It can be no problem because most people have to, most people have a smartphone, but not everyone wants to use their phone for company stuff. And I won't expect that. Okay.
We have 2 questions here about in the first case, the presentation. If you're willing to share that afterwards, if I can send that to the participants, the PDF or is that okay? Yeah, great.
Yeah.
And also the hackathon. I heard that people are interested in the hackathon as well, because you showed great, excellent. So we'll
sure. So that's a set of 2 PDFs I can provide you with. That's no problem.
Okay, great. I'll send that then to the okay. Were the Macs infected? That was of course answered, because this was asked before, and then we saw that Macs were. I'm a strong supporter for Mac.
But one thing I have to say, I've every week on a Friday I do something like a stream. It's basically an appointment where everyone can join, and I stream that to our intranet, and that's called a Cyber Sprechstunde, which is basically just 1 hour where we answer questions about cyber stuff. And one of the questions afterwards was, are Macs safer than Windows machines? And I have to say, it depends. I did a show where I took over a macOS machine within 20 seconds, because to effectively take over a Mac, it takes 1 line of code, and that's the same as in Windows. So I have to warn you, it depends on how you use it, and a Mac it takes the same time to hack that. That's one USB stick I enter to your device. That's quite interesting because it's so easy.
Yeah, so I guess every computer is vulnerable at some stage. You just have to know how to attack it, I guess.
Definitely.
So
the only thing I can say is Windows machines are more vulnerable to ransomware attacks than Linux and macOS devices, but they're not immune.
okay, nobody's immune, I guess. So here's a question about how many people worked in the car wash?
About 80. So we had I think about 20 to 30 per building. But they were, I think we had like 10 to 12 hours per day. So we had 2 shifts, as far as I remember. So about 80, but yeah, it's fluctuated a little bit depending on how many machines were delivered that day.
Okay. How long was the recovery of the significant percentage, and how long was the full recovery?
The first recovery until the people were able to log on again was about 3 weeks. I have to say one important thing. We always produced our daily newspapers, so they were always able to do the production via alternative systems. But yeah, I think it took about 3 weeks until they were able to do their normal workflows. It took about 3 months to get back on track for most of the people. So there was, I have one example, giving everyone their email address back was something that worked really quick, because we had to create new email accounts on the domain, but getting everyone access to their old mailboxes and archives, that took up to 3 months, because we had to prioritize, and old emails were not the focus for business in the first weeks. So yeah, I think within the first three weeks we were able to produce everything again and do payments and stuff like that. One interesting thing is that the payments for December were done on the 22nd. So that's why the payment systems were not the first focus in the first week, because we could deprioritize it.
Okay, great. Here's a question about the MS Defender. Why did you choose that?
Oh, that's a combination of a lot of facts. We got consulting from our security company. We also had to recreate our Microsoft directories. So we already used Microsoft for domain services, for terminal servers, for stuff like that. So it was yeah, it was near, or it was something that could work, and the consulting told us that it's a good way. And basically we use Azure and Azure AD, and it has the charm that we can control it on a central theme, on a central platform, that we can enable our SOC that we now have, a security operations center, to use one console for everything. For example, it's quite nice for them to be able, if there's an alarm, to isolate devices or lock accounts within seconds after they happen. And that's, I won't say that that's not possible with other scan engines, but to have everything at once really help with the time to react when something happens, which as of today happens every few days. So there are still people clicking on phishing links, So it's not over. It's after the attack is before the next attack. I hope that answers the question, because there's no list of 10 facts that I can tell you why we chose Defender. It's just it's a behavior-based system that fits our needs quite well. And I have to say, personally, I've been using Defender exclusively on the one Windows machine I own for at least since 2010, because I think it's one of the best engines out there. And if you use your second brain cell, it works really well.
Okay, here's a question that you already answered in your presentation, I guess. So were the printing houses or production affected? Obviously not, because you published the newspapers. There was no break in.
But the communication channels were impacted. So we were not able to control the RIPs, for example, or to send stuff to the RIPs to automate stuff. We had to, on the first days, we had to use USB sticks, like it was 30 years ago, where you would use a taxi to bring that stuff to the printing houses. We used USB sticks and went to our printing houses, which, for example, if here in Essen, next one was at that time still in Essen, so it wasn't far away, but that got closed down. So if that would happen today, it would be at least 1 hour between these two things. After some days, we established different channels, but yeah, it was basically the printing machine and the notebook and the USB cable. A little bit simplified, but we had to shut everything off between output of PDF in the editorial system and import to the printing or export from the RIP. That got
back to basics, basically.
Yeah,
I guess. So here's another one. How do you feel prepared for the next attack? Let's hope that.
Yeah, I feel better prepared for the next attack. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's subjective. I think we have processes that work quite well right now. We have communication processes that work. We enabled our SOC to be a little bit independent from locking devices, shutting down stuff. And in the last 2 years, or in the years since I had that job, I learned that the processes we established really work. I mean, like stuff like Log4j, I'm not sure if that's rings some bells. That was December 1 year ago, which was one of the biggest security issues ever. There we saw that the process we established worked, that everyone knew that if the new CISO says something starts burning, that it's not because I find that funny, but because we need to act. That works quite well, and get good support from our CIO. So yeah, we're better prepared, but there's always space for doing stuff better, for evolution, and I think that's something that will never end, because the attackers get better every day and more coordinated. Yeah, better, but not optimal.
What about, I mean, here's also a question about if your customers were impacted, for instance, in the newspaper or also the digital subscription. Did they get somehow affected by this, or was it?
Yes, definitely. For example, our daily newspapers. Normally we have, let's say, I'm not sure how much is it today, if it's 24, 28, 32 pages, and every area gets their local part. For the first weeks, we had an emergency product, which was basically everything in one product. So we didn't change the plates. We produced one. I think right now, when we are in a regular production, or in that area here, North Rhine-Westphalia, I think we have about, I would have to lie, about 40 different products. So different local parts, and that they had to live with getting a more general view of the rural area, for example, and not their specific city. So they got a different emergency product for a while. And next thing is we couldn't even sell or place ads in the beginning. So it's quite a huge impact, but the customers got a different product, and the ad customers were not even able to be customers for a while. So yeah, there was an impact.
Did the production systems break down, like the CTP and in the print room, etc.? So that was not affected. Is that?
No, they were not affected, but they were isolated because everything in between that was able to provide communications was shut down.
Yeah. Okay, great. But you mentioned also in your presentation that there was the key issue here that you had good backups. The backups were there, so you could take everything and make.
That's the thing that really saved us. And backups. And one important thing I would like to capitalize on is there's a theory for backups that's called 3-2-1. Have 3 backups on at least 2 different mediums, and one of that should be offline. So that's something that really, really saved us to have a backup that was the attackers were not able to access.
That's very interesting when you say this, because this is, I'm not sure this is the case for every company. There are so many weaknesses out there.
Yeah, but I have to say that's something I even do privately, and that's something you should also do privately, because, for example, you have 20,000 images of your children. That should be the same protection. For example, my data, my central data, my photos. I do the same. I have one copy on my local machine or my server that gets synced to Google, to a Google Drive, and every 3 months I take a USB drive, a hard drive, and copy my 100 gigabyte of extreme important data to that drive, and take that to another location.
Yes,
like to my mother's bank. Because if that's gone,
exactly.
I have to say, I was a freelancer and I did data reconstruction in the past, and I have to say 100 gigabytes of reconstruction, even if you drop a hard drive, that's a small to medium car you have to invest to even get a look at that data.
Wow. Okay. How do you make sure the big backup is clean? I mean, because I have, for instance, had this case in a company I worked for, that we did a backup, but the backup was corrupted. So
yeah, we do backup testing on a regular base. So I'm not sure if the English word for how the English word is for that, because that's a quite interesting German word, because it's Rücksicherungstest, so a long German word. We are regularly testing if the backups are able to be written on the live systems again. That happens on a regular base. So you need to do that. You need to check the integrity of the backups. Most backup systems will do that. But as you saw in the car wash, even after restoring, we had to do a malware check to be sure the backups were clean.
And I mean, we will also have a question here about how do you scale your security as a priority across the company? Do you have security champions in different organizations, or company-wide security team? This is interesting.
We have a company-wide, and that's something we could talk about for another hour, because there are so many parts. So there's support from the CEO level and CIO. That's the most important thing that I don't have to go through some hoops to get a decision to our CEOs. I just call them. That's something that changed. So yeah, the direct access to people making the decisions is one thing. That changed the CISO position to meet the industry standards. So CISO needs to be independent. That's it's something that's quite important for me.
But part of the executive team as a chief internet security officer. Yeah, exactly.
And we have a company-wide security team, a central team. Most of them are here, but we have some smaller companies that still have smaller IT departments. And I find that question extremely interesting about security champions, because we did that and we are establishing that. So we have a central team, we have central communications, but we also have or are establishing, that's a longer process, ambassadors, cyber ambassadors. We have the same on a data protection level for GDPR purposes. So that's something where we took a look at and trying to motivate people to work on that, to work together with us. But yeah, it's a mixture. We do a lot of communications, and we have a central team, and that's one important thing. We have an external security operations center. So we would not be able to do a 24/7 coverage of all systems.
Yeah.
So we have an external company, North in that case, that do the 24/7 coverage and that escalate the cases to our teams. So we won't be at the office at 3 o'clock in the night, but there will be someone reachable at that time frame.
Is the IT team quite big at Funke, or is it? Can you share that?
Infrastructure? Yeah, sure. The Funke technology, which is the development infrastructure company, is about 200 people. And we have another digital unit, which is Funke Digital, which do most of the platforms, or did the changes a little bit. That's another 200 people. So 200 to 400.
I feel we have questions for a full hour again here, because we run over now court 15 minutes, and I actually think we should try to organize something sooner rather than later, because this is definitely something that people are interested in, and for sure a very important thing, because I mean the information systems are the heart of the company. I was wondering while you were talking about this, maybe there should be like a hacking practice, like a fire practice within the company.
Yeah, definitely. But the one thing I noticed, we do a lot of events, we do a lot of communications, and the one thing that I noticed is hacking or security was a huge hobby, so I have a lot of practical knowledge. So if I bring something in that people can take their hands on, which people can touch, that changes everything. So, for example, if I have a device where I can create a bad Wi-Fi network that tries to attack your Wi-Fi network or to phish info, that's something when people are able to open their mobile phone and see that network, click on that and see what happens. That's the point where everything changes. And there's so much stuff that can be shown in reality, like rubber duckies, these USB sticks that look like regular USB sticks, but they, if you put them in, they tell the computer, hey, I'm a keyboard. Here are some key inputs. Please put them where they need to be. So that's how I'm able to take over a PC or Mac within 2 seconds. And there's a lot of stuff I can show that's interesting. For example, I have only one device here, but but I like to show that because it's quite rare. A device like that, a Flipper Zero, which is like a Swiss Army knife for hackers. It's not the biggest attack device, but it shows extremely well what can be done. So I can switch off that TV with one click, or copy my my access card, something like that. And that's something that's quite interesting. That's live hacking. That's called, and we do also do that in schools. So if you have the chance to show the people and to get them to do hands-on on what can happen, that's it's quite a big effect on the awareness on the long run.
I think we'll do two more questions, but I have one for you as well, where we have you spoke about the communication, because of course internal communication is very important. But what about external communication? Because it's crisis management. You have to somehow manage the information, outflow of information, so people or the outside world is not getting mixed messages. And it's of course a big media company that has to protect its reputation as well. Did you use external communication firm, or did you just do it in-house with your communication staff?
Yeah, we did that all in-house. We even received a prize for that because they did it that well and did that hackathon. No, we have quite a big and a good communication department, which are responsible for all internal and external communications. At that point, I think that were about 7 people that were able to support us there. And that's quite important, because people, the technical stuff has to focus on completely different stuff, and every part of communications that has to be done by IT takes away the ability to repair, to restore stuff. So I would, you should have a professional team working on that, and if you're able to do that in-house, should hire an agency really quick.
Yeah, because people
I have to say a little bit of commercial. We as a company, we Funke, we have a sub company, Raufeld, which provides that service. Because we learned so much in that process, we decided to just offer crisis communication as a service for other companies. We already did that after ransomware attacks on other companies.
Yes.
So
okay. Now you've made that public. but just final question, and I'll send you the remaining questions, because we have some questions left, and I'm not sure you're willing to answer some of them because of just competitive reasons, because they're some of them I've deliberately not asked you here. Just one more question about, because the staff, you have, of course, what, 6,000 staff or something like that. Did you say that? And when you are, I mean, how do you empower or train or make your staff aware of this, and try to get them not to click on these phishing links? What's the secret sauce here?
You have to use every channel you can get. For example, we use an external platform for awareness education. So every few months you will receive an email telling you there's a new education snippet available, and we track that. Right now it's still optional, but we do that on a regular basis. So we have that electronic education system where you do your webinars. That's one part, and the other thing is just being present. For example, I've that every week we have an open hour where everyone can join us. that gets recorded, so it's also a streaming format, and yeah, you have to work on that. We have coffee machines here, like the big all-in-one coffee machines. They have a display. We have one of the images was, hey, join me on the cyber hour Friday 1 o'clock. That worked quite well. And yeah, you have to do new stuff. For example, these small post-its and small gimmicks, and I think that's something that needs to change every now and then, because if you use the same stuff all the time, people will ignore it. So I think I will be giving out marketing stuff, gimmicks, like once a year at least. You have to be present.
Sounds good, because this is needed, I guess.
Yep. And one thing that I think is quite important is to be reachable and to talk to everyone on eye level. So yes, I'm a CISO, that's C-level, whatever, but I always tell everyone, if there's something and you need to talk about that, just contact me. That works quite well. You have to reiterate that a lot, but that's extremely important for me to be on eye level. That's why I am not here in a suit, because I want to show you. That's part of the branding I'm doing. I'm the voice for cybersecurity, but I want to show people that we are on eye level. That's that's one important thing for me, and that I get good feedback for that. And I just see that people are not afraid to contact me. We're doing phishing simulations, for example, where we send out phishing emails. And there were quite a lot of people that contacted me and said, oh, you got me. That won't happen again. So they are not afraid to tell me that they clicked on that link.
Okay,
that's important for me, because I tell everyone, my agenda is not my personal profit. My agenda is to make Funke as a company more secure. And for me, it's important that we take every step, and that's not something personal. So if we made an error, just call me. We will fix that. And for example, the person responsible for the incident, the person that clicked on the link, doesn't know that. That's one takeaway. Why should we tell them? Because that is a psychological thing, and that could not end well. And we don't have any positive thing coming out of it by telling them that they are responsible for that. Because I think, yes, the person clicked that, but the IT should be able to prevent that. And if a user is able to click something and destroy something, then it's not the user's problem. But that's the way I have been using computers. If I get a new program, I click every button, and if it breaks, I'm a user.
You make a very good point, because no blaming game. Tim, because we are out of time, and we spoke about earlier that we might do this again in a German, because I know there are several Germans that have contacted us that have asked for this in the German language, and you are willing to do this, but I see that there is also a need to expand this a little bit because of the interest here. I thank you so much for your time and your enthusiasm. It has been great to talk to you and listen to you present this. It's extremely interesting, and I hope we can continue our discussion at a later time. I will send you the questions remaining, and we will also send a mailing to all the participants with the Hackasyn and the presentation and the answers to the questions that he's willing to answer. Just let's keep it that way, because there might be questions there that he's not willing to answer. But at least I'll thank you all for the participation today. I had a really good time, and I think it was a fantastic session. And I'll see you all next month on the 16th of February. Then we meet for the next webinar, which is about how we promote paper coming from the IT. Thanks again, Tim. Have a great day, and see you all later. Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye.